What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 68. Another Battle Bellow episode titled Bones, Thorns, and Harmony. In tonight's episode, we are going to be covering the Briar and Bone Warcry box that is up for pre-order today. But before we get any further into the episode, my name is Jerod Johnson. I'm your host tonight. Tonight, I am joined by Trace Al Capone Hyde.
Let's get bony with it.
And Jason Table Noob Murray.
Just meet me at the crossroads.
The crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
The crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So for anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of three busy gamers playing games that they love and balancing life with those games and making their way to the Nova Open convention every year. I did that out of order, but that's fine. It's totally organic. It's like some fungus-infested Sylvaneth.
You're the fungus and
inorganic, deformed Ossiarch Bonereapers. So this is another Battle Bellow episode. We want to start off by thanking Games Workshop for sending us an advanced copy of Briar and Bone to review. So that's what we're going to spend the episode doing. We're going to talk about the contents of the box. We're going to spend some time talking about the lore, and then we'll spend some time talking about the rules. And I guess before we dive in, anything to catch up on? I don't think so.
Been painting a lot of demons.
You have been painting a lot of demons.
Yeah.
Getting ready for that Old World Square Hammer tournament at Nova.
Yep. The GT. 2,500 points worth of demons. So
that's a lot of demons.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of diamonds.
That's a lot of demons.
Jason got a gaming achievement.
Yeah. Achievement unlocked.
I did.
You want to talk about that?
So Emma and I partook in a set championship for Loricana the other day at our local store, the closest one to the house. It's very nice, only 15 minutes away. The Ursula set championships for Loricana. It's like a month-long event where the stores, they get 4 enchanted like kind of promo cards and 2 mats. Emma went and played the It deck. So she played Emerald Steel with this like Bucky thing. It like makes you discard all your cards. It's really annoying. So we got there and we sat down. The pairings came up, and guess who I played?
Emma.
Nice.
Round 1. It was fantastic. She did take me to 3 games. I was a little worried, but it did stink. Like, round 1, one of us had a loss. In the end, it worked out. So I played her. And then I ended up by going 2-1-1 in Swiss and squeaking in the top 4. I was playing a steel blue deck, which is like, it ramps up in resources really, really quickly. And then it uses items to kind of quest or lure out just as quick once you get those items out. And in my 4th game, I played a guy named Chris, and he O2'd me, put me to sleep real quick. And I was like, oh, that was it. That's the end of the run. Like,
yep.
Thanks for coming. Like, let's go home. But luckily, one of the other games turned out the opposite way everyone thought. So I was able to squeak into the top 4, securing an enchanted. And then I had to play Chris again. But this time I beat him.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, moved on to the finals. So I secured a mat, and then I played a local player called Bruce. Really nice gentleman, really helps out Emma whenever he can. But he also had the It deck of Emerald Steel. We went to 3 games, and I squeaked it out and won the store championship. So I got a nice championship mat and the enchanted to go together, which I'm excited about because it's the only one that we got to go to. So,
nice.
It's pretty cool. They do them every weekend at different stores. It's going to
work out perfect, by the way.
Why is that?
The color scheme on your mat, I'm just going to use it as my placemat for my demons in Nova. It's the same colors.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's good. Good tones really cool. To it.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, it was exciting. I was not like the goal is to always get a card. And I know most of our listeners don't play the game, but like these prizes, the cards go. The one we won for the first series is still like a $350 card. This one isn't as much, so the card's running about $200 if you sold it outright. For a card that I paid $20 for to enter the tournament, and the mat itself's going for either $2 or $250. So it was a pretty good weekend.
That's awesome.
Still got that TCG bug.
Yeah, that was the other surprising thing to win it is I only played that deck in my mind. Like there was no like actual playing in person. So it was really cool that it worked out. And we've only played in one event other than this one. Last month we played in just like a normal Saturday meetup event. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why Emma struggled so much is because we made some changes to her deck kind of last minute. And at one point she's like, I don't know what Tinkerbell does because I've never used her. I was like, oh, probably not a good idea to change that up on a 10-year-old, but
yeah. That's funny.
It was fun. She had fun. I had fun. And nice. That's 2 for 2 on the set championships. We'll see what 4 months brings from now.
Nice. I like it. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I think the only other thing of note is that we had our Spearhead meetup. We had a good turnout for that. It was cool to see painted spearheads for Age of Sigmar on the table, get the games in. And I think on all accounts, everybody enjoyed it.
Everybody really enjoyed it. I was really pleased. We even had some people show up with some spearheads that, weren't able to play, unfortunately, but lots of folks that came out.
Yeah.
Mostly painted. Only one wasn't painted. You know who you are.
Way to go. Yeah. Wasn't me, by the way. I was there, but I didn't play.
No. Well, cool. Well, now that we're all caught up, why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we will talk about the contents of the Briar and Bone box. And we're back, and we are here to talk about the contents of the Briar and Bone box for Warcry. So it's the latest expansion for Warcry. It comes with 2 warbands. They've been previewed on the Warhammer community site. There is an Ossiarch Bonereaper warband and a Sylvaneth warband. Both of the warbands come with 8 models. Jason is dancing off mic right now, and it's just amazing. I wish everyone could see it.
It's magical.
It is magical, and it also comes with another piece of terrain. So the last box came with the broken piece of the Eye of Chotek. This one comes with the Ravening Gnarl Oak, which is one of the trees that's overgrown and super hungry. They stake them to the ground. It's got stakes on its feet, but it's obviously pulled its way out of the ground, and it has a giant mouth. And in the rules, you can keep people into the mouth, and they will take some damage or die. Or both, probably. So the other thing that wasn't teased on the Warhammer community site that the book does is it provides battle traits for every warband in the game. And then even battle traits for Grand Alliance if you are playing a mixed warband or something like that. And so these are a lot like the battle traits that we see in Age of Sigmar, where it is a rule that applies to every unit, every model, every fighter in your army. So that's kind of the rundown of what this game adds. As far as the models are concerned, the Ossiarch Bonereapers comes with 1 way to build the leader. And then you get a couple of options for 2 bodyguard models that are mostly humanoid. And then you get 2 flying models that are the Aviarch something or another's.
They're like harpies, aren't they?
Yeah, Aviarch harpies. And then you have the Teratic Prowlers, which are 4-legged dog beast things. And then on the Sylvaneth side, again, it's another 8 models. You can build the leader, who's the Swarm Sage, 1 way. They've got a beehive and a bunch of little tiny spites flying around out of them. You've got options for building the Twistweald Wardens. You can either give them a bow, or you can give them a spear or a halberd. And then there is a Spite Revenant that you can build with a giant thorn whip, which is how I built one of them. And then
also one with a bow too, right? And there one with a bow.
Yeah, so the Twistweald Warden can come with a bow, so you get some ranged attacks in there.
That's cool.
And then you can build a Twistweald Revenant, not a Spite Revenant, with some kind of blade, and then you get 3 Dryads. So not real complex. Building them was, not altogether that difficult. I will say
those models are cool. They're all really cool.
Yeah.
And they have rules in AOS too, if I recall correctly.
They do. And actually the rules for the models for AOS were released when AOS came out. So anybody that's playing has already seen them, which was cool to see. But we can kind of get into that when we get into the crunch section.
Go over that briefly if you want to.
Any other questions about the contents, gentlemen, since we only got the one box? You guys haven't seen it.
Just a comment on the Dryads themselves, because those models are they're new. Like they're not. They have the same vibe, but they are very, very nice looking compared to the old Dryad sculpts.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So the sculpts are a lot more dynamic than the old Dryads were, because they're not fantasy models, so they're not stuck in the like rank and file positioning. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was just one of the things I was impressed by when we were looking at them, is the dynamism of the Dryads.
What's the story on the doggos? Like, how are they made? Why are they there? What do they do?
Yeah, so let's talk about the dogs. So the Ossiarch Bonereapers, they're called the Teratic Cohorts, and I'm just going to read from the book. That's what we did in the last episode. I think it kind of gives a good way to introduce the warband. So the Teratic Cohorts form the vanguard of the Ossiarchs, scouring the Gnarlwood, seeking to secure Talaxis and the treasures within. Talaxis being the fallen Seraphon world ship that has crashed into the Gnarlwood. So they're seeking to secure the treasures within in the name of the Great Necromancer. Each bears a hideous beastly form, purpose-built for tracking and traversal, and will stop at nothing to see the will of Nagash realized. So the big thing about this warband is that Nagash envisions his Ossiarch Bonereapers to be the pinnacle of soldiery, of wizardry. Like, they're perfect. And so if they ever behave in a way that is less than perfect, then obviously they have failed him in some way, and so he will punish them. And the way that he punishes them is that he will make them more bestial. So he will take the things that make them human or human-like and strip those out. So the leader is a Cavalos Centauri, and he is a Liege Cavalos, which is a leader, a general of the Ossiarch Bonereapers, and he has his Bone Shapers take the torso of the Liege and the body of his mount and fuse them together. So now he's stuck to his mount in some bestial form, and he is the one that's in charge of leading these Teratic cohorts.
So being fused to his horse is punishment, is what you're saying.
It is, yeah, because he's not his own thing anymore. He's stuck.
That seems optimal to me. Like,
I mean, functionally, sure, but if you were a general of armies and now you're leading a bunch of beasts around, feels like a demotion.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, you're still leading.
It's true, just not armies.
Jeez,
he's just leading the hobos, not the elite troops, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it is cool that there is that. They're not just autonomous constructs, right? Like there is some sort of hierarchy. There's some sort of mess up and punishment. That's pretty nifty.
Yeah, and they're hoping by securing all of the busted up Realm Shaper engines that were part of the Seraphon ship, that they will earn their way back into Nagash's good graces. I don't have a lot of hope for them. Nagash is not known for leniency or rewarding people really for anything. So, but I guess some hope is better than no hope.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the different troop types? I'm sure there's some lore bits on those.
Yeah, so the next down the line are the Mortex Cycloptians, and they look almost humanoid, other than their feet. So their feet are like very bestial, so they have that like the dog leg, so their feet like are extra long.
Are they like webbed feet? Can they swim?
I don't know, maybe. I don't think so. I don't think that bones have webs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ossiarch bone duckies.
Ossiarch bone. Yeah, they're not Ossiarch Labrador retrievers, Jason.
Quack, quack.
But their big thing is they're actually there to keep an eye on everything else. So they,
I see what you're saying.
So they have one eye instead of two. But they, but all of the Mortisans can see through their eyes to keep an eye on the rest of the Teratic cohorts.
So they only have one eye. Would they be considered like lazy bone out of Bone Thugs and Harmony? Just
maybe.
Saying. Okay.
It seems
likely. All right.
Yeah.
Who's Wishbone?
The
dog?
One of
those birds.
Like the storytelling dog?
One of those birds.
Is that what we're talking about? That's the dogs, right?
Okay, yeah. Sounds good.
No, so next we have the Aviarch Harpies. Notice I'm delaying, right? Jason asked about the dogs. I'm talking about everything but the dogs first. And these are Mortex that have had their arms removed. They've been given wings. They don't have any of
I can fly.
That's not a Bone Thugs and Harmony song, Jason.
Wait.
Really messed that one up. But they're really there to scout ahead, as you would expect from like a flying thing. And then you have the Teratic Prowlers. So these are the lowest of the low. They have been so defective, whether that's because of a corruption of their soul or because they just messed up over and over and over and over again, that they can't even speak anymore. They like are literally the animals of the Ossiarch Bonereapers. And they're there to just get into things and start shredding things with their teeth and their claws. They are in the realm of Gur, and so a lot of the bones that they're using are beast bones, and so they're starting to notice that these constructs are getting like more and more feral. So one of the charges of the Cavalos Centauri, the leader, is sadly putting down the bone dogs when they get out of control. But
what?
I know, right?
I don't like that guy.
Yeah. So it is punishment because he has to kill dogs. And who wants to do that?
Terrible. No one likes that. The one kind of looks like the Ghostbusters doggo. Does it Zool?
No, Zool was the
You're talking about the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Glowthor, Keymaster of Gozer, and what's her name?
If you can pull this out, I'm going to be impressed. But what was cool about the building the Prowlers is that you actually got some head options. So I gave one like a dog head.
Oh, cool.
And then the other one it's like a combo between...
Like a saber-toothed tiger. I think I saw like a saber-toothed tiger type of head.
Yeah, so it's doggy, saber-toothed tigery. And then the other one is like a combo between some kind of livestock, like a bovine. It's got like big horns, but it's got like a bird beak.
Oh, interesting.
And then one that I guess is like the alpha. He actually has like armor on his head and like bigger horns coming off. So it's almost like a minotaur head, but they all have very like canine, well, almost feline bodies. But the sculpt's really cool. They're obviously powered in the same way that a lot of the OCR constructs are. So like when I was painting them, like you can see that they've got like the spirit energy. So like all of the OCR models that have all the skulls that fill in the gaps that are like powering them. Like they all have those, even at a smaller scale, like within the rib cages and stuff. So
sounds like they'll be fun to paint.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun painting them. Painting them up in my Petrifex color scheme.
I don't know. They look good.
So that's it for the Teratic cohorts. Trace, you want to? Now that we've talked about bones, I think it's time we talk about some thorns.
Yeah, tell me about Winnie the Pooh and this honeypot beehive person
and his splinters too. Yeah. Yeah. So the group of Sylvaneth is called the Twistweald, and the Twistweald used to be regular Sylvaneth, and now they're corrupted and kind of growing extra bits due to the fungus that is present in this particular part of the gnarlwood. The parasitic plants basically choke the bark and muddy their minds, so they are in pain this entire time. It's pretty gross. Let me see. So the whole thing with them is they're kind of, obviously they're the other side of this box and opposing the Bonereapers. So they're trying to protect the scales of Talaxis from the Ossiarch. And one of the things that they do to try and prevent the Ossiarch from coming in and defending it is they actually intentionally infect the what are they called?
The gnarl oaks.
The gnarl oaks with the fungus, and it makes them go crazy, and eventually they eat themselves, kind of, but it takes a little while. But in the meantime, they awaken and they become very aggressive, and then they'll eat anything that comes by, and you can in game you can push them in, like Jerod said,
apples and bananas.
That's correct. One of the things that I found interesting about this particular lore is just how there's different stages of the infection with the fungus within the Sylvaneth, and how that directly affects how they interact with other Sylvaneth. Most of them try and stay away to prevent infection, but eventually some of them they basically go on a quest of redemption to try and heal themselves almost. They try and go to the Everspring Swath for healing. I'm looking at some notes that I wrote down. Let's see.
So they're leaving the gnarlwood.
Yeah.
And going back to other Sylvaneth groves.
Well, so some groves actually will recruit them because they're more savage and aggressive than normal Sylvaneth are. And then others are no, we don't want none of that business. You stay away. We don't want any of your corruptedness here, type deal. And they're really just trying to focus on preventing others from pillaging Talaxis. And so the warriors of those particular groups of the Twistweald are just assigned to just kill all intruders. Anything that comes close, they don't care if it's immortal, chaos, whatever, kill it. It shouldn't be close to the scales. You don't want to have any of that. And then one of the cool things about the lore too is that they use the fungus to morph their bodies. So when you're looking at the sculpts, those are all mutations that they've kind of manifested themselves out of as they lose their minds and start to become one with the parasite. And they basically embrace the curse to try and help achieve their goals. And it definitely puts them in danger of losing their own lives, but there's some cool lores there. The ones who actually lead these groups of these corrupted Sylvaneth, they're called Swarm Sages. And the Swarm Sages use the bees on the models called the Spite Swarms to try and keep the parasites at bay. And they're kind of like the shepherds of these Sylvaneth that end up slowly losing their minds to the parasite. And then to kind of go a little bit more into that, there's the different ranks, kind of like what Jerod was talking about with the Ossiarch, where there's the different ranks. They have these wardens, which are a little bit more, they still have a lot of their mental faculties, but they can still utilize some of the parasite to manifest new things with their bodies, but they kind of fight through the pain. They have nice weapons and stuff, but they can still fight through and keep their mental clarity. And then the revenants, they use these, they basically manifest the vines out further than, like when you look at the revenants from the regular Sylvaneth, they have like the claws. And these like grow extra vines and all kinds of weird growths to try and reach out further and smack their opponents and stuff.
Yeah, that one's got to be, I think that one's got to be the coolest model.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's, so normally like a Spite Revenant is on a 32.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you give it the Briar lashes, like it doesn't fit anymore. So you have to build it on a 40. Yeah. And so like the vines are huge and like its fingers have turned into vines and
looks very Flood-esque.
It does look very
like
Flood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then the Dryads that are in the Warband too, you can't really tell the difference with them. They're almost indistinguishable, except for like little things that are on the models that kind of belie their infection. And one of the things that I read through here that I kind of took a note of is that the Dryads themselves are kind of driven by guilt, and they'll kind of accompany the wields on dangerous journeys to try and redeem themselves and cleanse themselves of the spirits. I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, there's a lot of cool little bits in here. My favorite part though was the fact that they intentionally corrupt the trees and try and kill folks with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a Sylvaneth thing to do for sure.
100%. Yeah.
Nice. So the only other interesting bit of lore, I think, before we get into the crunch that I want to call out is, so in the last box, it was the Pyre and the Flood, and Nagash had sent the Pyregeists in to burn the forest down in an attempt to prevent like the life-giving Realm Shaper engines from spreading.
Yeah.
And he realized that burning the whole forest down was just going to make it easier for people to get to those. So he kind of called those back, and that's why he sent the Ossiarch in, because they can fight without tearing down the forest and stop making it easier for people
so he didn't just want all the souls in the forest. He didn't want to just burn them all down and get all the souls back.
Well, I think, goal. That was the initial goal, right? But then he realized, anybody's going to be able to get to these life engines and fight directly against death, which is what he wants for everything. So, yeah, we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about some rules.
All right, and we're back. And I want to get to the crunchy crunch of the rules. In that intro, you mentioned that there's like a new rule set for all the warbands, all the grand alliances. I have what? Give me an example. Like, how does this work? Is it like reactions? Is it just like a overall like rule that if I get some triples and doubles, what is this?
Yeah, so they're full-on battle traits. And so it's a lot like I said in the intro, it's a lot like an army-wide rule. And some of them can be a reaction. Some of them let them use like abilities that are on their ability cards for the warband. Some of them let them change value. So like, I'm just going to pull some at random. So there's one for just order in general. So the Grand Alliance order, and it is Courageous Defenders. When a friendly fighter with this battle trait makes the take cover reaction, critical hits become hits on a roll of a 3+ instead of a 4+. So with take cover on a 4+, critical hits become normal hits. Well, with the order, with this battle trait, if you apply it, then anytime any of your fighters use the take cover reaction, it changes that.
And that's the only one for order? Like, that's it?
Well, so that's order, Grand Alliance, but then there are battle traits for every other faction in the game. So there's like generic Cities of Sigmar, generic Daughters of Cain, generic Fire Slayers, generic Iden and Thiepkin, but then there's also new battle traits for the specific warbands. So like Canine Shadow Stalkers have a battle trait.
Here's another example. So the Claws of Karanak, for example, the ones that just came out a couple, like maybe just shy of a year ago, which are like the Khorne dudes, and it looks like that beast is running with his mask of Fleshhound. It is called No Claw Unbloodied. Each time an enemy fighter makes a disengage action, roll a dice. On a 2+, allocate 1 damage point to that enemy fighter for each friendly fighter with this battle trait within 1 inch of that enemy fighter. So you try and run away, you take a damage. Stuff like that. Cool. So just like passive abilities.
Yeah, it's like a universal rule that they're getting.
That's right.
On top of their normal
abilities
and reactions.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Any of the Underworlds warbands get one? Or specific, or they just got to use the death?
Well,
and
some of the they would fall into whatever faction that they were. So
so like
the
they could use their Grand Alliance death, or they could Canaan's Reapers could either use the Grand Alliance death ability, which is once per battle round, count the first critical hit from a ranged attack action that targets a friendly fighter with this battle trait that has the minion rune mark as a hit instead. So like all of your, I'm sure all of the Mortex in the Canaan's Reapers warband are minions. So if you get shot, criticals become normals. Or they could use the Ossiarch Bonereapers, which is if a friendly fighter with this battle trait uses an ability that requires the Ossiarch Bonereapers rune mark and has a range at 1 inch to the range of that ability. So I think the Ossiarchs have one that lets you move another fighter after one of your fighters moves. And so it would extend the range at which that.
But I can't use 2. I have to pick 1.
You would pick 1. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Any trace for you? Any one that like sticks out that you like, or?
There's a couple. Like I've looked, since I play mostly Chaos warbands, I've looked at a couple of them. The Tzeentch one is pretty cool. It's called Warped Fate. After the initiative phase, starting with the attacker, each player of a warband with this battle trait can roll a dice for each double, triple, or quad they have. On a 4+, change the value of one of those dice to 6. So they took a little bit of the fate dice mechanics and kind of pulled them over to Warcry a little bit. Yeah. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Stuff in there. Yep.
Yeah, and there are a handful in there. Like that might be the spiciest thing that you can do is changing things to 6. So Jason, your favorite, the Untamed Beasts, right? Going back to the OGs. So at the start of each battle round, if no enemy fighters are your worthy prey, pick an enemy fighter. That fighter is your worthy prey. So you tag a fighter. And then while that fighter is your worthy prey, abilities that target that fighter are treated as having a value of 6. So anytime you were like, this fighter takes a number of damage points equal to the value of this roll, well, that would be 6. Automatically becomes a 6.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Another added layer of rules and depth for really everything in the game.
Yep.
It might be the book. That book might be worth it right there.
Could be.
Right there.
I mean, you also get the giant eating tree. So even if you don't like the warbands.
Which will be a great piece of terrain for Spearhead.
I think it would count as a large terrain.
Large terrain feature.
It's a larger terrain.
Cool. All right, so what's the spice of the Ossiarch Bonereapers in the box? Like, what is their rule crunch?
Yeah, so their whole thing is they can sacrifice wild dice to do extra stuff, or they can roll to try to get wild dice. So their faction reaction is called Predatory Ravage. Fighter with a Teratic cohort rune mark can make this reaction after all the damage points from an enemy fighter's melee attack have been allocated to them. The reacting fighter can make a melee attack action that targets the attacker. So you can use your reaction to attack after you've been hit. When a fighter uses this reaction, you can discard one of your saved wild dice. If you don't, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of that attack action and subtract 1 from the damage points allocated by each hit and critical hit from that attack action to a minimum of 1. So if I'm swinging back with my AVR Harpy, which has, it has 4 attacks. That would get reduced to 3, and my damage characteristics becomes 1/3 instead of 1/4 because it would reduce. But I can discard the wild die and get all of my attacks at my normal value. So you get a full attack action out of activation as a reaction.
That's cool.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's cool. Trace, what about the B-boys?
Well, they be buzzing. The Twistweald faction rules, they have a reaction as well. The reaction name is called Mycelial Ravaging. A fighter that can make this reaction when they are targeted by a melee attack, but before the hit rolls are made. So you do this before any dice are rolled. For each hit roll of 5+ from that attack action, allocate 2 damage points to the attacking fighter. So it's reflective Thorns damage, which is pretty sweet. So that you spike high on your dice, and I do 2 damage points per spike dice you roll, which is kind of cool. And a lot of these, a lot of the abilities and stuff that they have too for the doubles and triples and stuff, they do extra damage based on like the thorns and stuff like that. So, like a good example is one of the doubles that you can use is flesh piercing talons. During the next melee attack action made by this fighter, critical hits are scored on a 5+ for that attack action instead of a 6+. So they're very killy.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, what do you think the overall warband is really good at? And this one is just dealing damage and taking models off.
Yeah, the reflective damage. I mean, any additional damage, especially out of activation, kind of like what Jerod was saying, is just really nice. So being able to do that reaction and spike damage back at your enemy is pretty strong. And most of these guys are they're fairly tough too.
So what's your favorite fighter out of all of it, and what is his stat line?
Me or Jerod?
You.
Me. I really think that I like the Spite Revenant the most. She is 110 points. She has a range of 3 on her attack action. She rolls 3 dice. It's strength 5, and the attack is 2/3 damage. She has a move of 4 and a toughness of 4, and she has 12 wounds. And she can use that ability that we were just talking about, where you can spike on a 5+. She can use that one. And then the triple that they can use is Thorned Grasp. Pick a visible enemy fighter within 3 inches of this fighter, then roll a dice. On a 2+, allocate 2 damage points to the fighter for being rolled for. Keep rolling in this way until allocating damage points to that fighter roll is equal to or lower than the previous roll. So if you spike high, you don't want to spike high early. You want to go low and then continue to do that stuff until you roll underneath it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty spicy. She's pretty good. I like her a lot.
That's awesome. Jerod, what about the Ossiarch Bonereapers? What is like your favorite little unit or stat line out of there?
Yeah, so I think I like the Mortex Cycloptean with Dreadglaive. I think just visually
Dreadglaive.
So this he has like a smaller version of the halberds that the Morghasts carry. So the shaft of the weapon is made out of spirit energy, and then it coalesces into a physical blade. That's right. So I think it just looks cool. But he is 145 points, move 4, toughness 4, but he has 18 wounds. And then his Dreadglaive is a range 1 weapon with 3 attacks, but it hits at strength 5 and it does 2/4 damage. And then he's got the rune mark on his ability on his card that lets him use the double Nadirite strike. And so it's a double, and you just add 2 to the attack's characteristic of the next melee attack action made by this fighter. So just spend a double, and now he's rolling 5 dice instead of 3. If you discard 2 wild dice, critical hits are scored on a 5+. So you could roll 5 dice that crit on 5s.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than getting hit in the face with a pole.
These guys really, really like those wild dice, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's their whole mechanic is like sacrificing gameplay, I guess, to do more damage.
Well, you're going to have the initiative, so
maybe they're 8 fighters, so.
But is initiative not determined by wild dice in the beginning again?
No, that's true.
Singles.
Yeah. Singles.
Yeah.
Singles.
Which is a wild dice.
Not always. It can be.
Can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you roll your dice,
the
singles are determined whether or not you have the first action or not.
Yeah.
Whoever has the most singles. And you can use your wild dice to add a single, or you can make it a double or triple or whatever with it.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it up.
Yep. And they have a way to so they have a double that lets you add wild dice as well, which is actually an interesting mechanic. So on a double, you roll a number of dice equal to the value of this ability, and then for each 5 up, you add 1 wild dice to your saved wild dice. So if you get boxcars,
it's a lot of wild dice.
Could be a good way to get a couple of extra wild dice in your
They sound fun.
Yeah, I think they'll be fun. They're slow. I mean, classic.
Really?
Cavalo Centauri moves 7. The Cavalo Centauri moves 7, and the Harpies move 5. But everybody else has moved 4.
Even the little pet doggos?
No, I know. I was a little surprised. I figured they might be move 5, but no, they're 4.
I don't understand that. So you have like doggos, you have a person that is like on a steed and
the
flying
guy that's on a
things.
steed moves 7. That's fast for Warcry. There's not a lot that goes 7 in Warcry.
But you just said they were slow. You lied to me.
No, the 5 of the fighters are move 4, Jason.
But the other 3 move fast.
Yes. I guess overall, I don't know. They're medium move.
Medium move. It's a schmedium.
It's a schmedium. I'm a large.
So is there anything else interesting that stand out, like that you guys wanted to call out for the actual rules of these warbands?
So there's one more ability, and this is the one that it can only be used by the dogs or the birds, and it's called Artery Severing Strike. It's a triple. And a fighter can only use this ability if an enemy fighter has been allocated 1 or more damage points by a melee attack action made by them this activation. Until the end of the battle round, each time that enemy fighter makes a reaction or an action other than wait, roll a number of dice equal to the value of this ability. For each roll of 2+, allocate 1 damage point to that fighter. So you bite them, and you've torn an artery, and you spend your triple on this, and every time they do anything, they could be taking some damage. And it's pretty cool.
I'll just highlight the quad for the Sylvaneth 2. It's called Twisted Song. It says remove a number of damage points allocated to this fighter equal to the value of this ability. This fighter can then make a bonus move action or a bonus attack action. So you heal, and then you can do extra moves and extra stuff. So it's Rampage plus a heal.
That's strong. That's awesome. Well, cool. I mean, they both sound very interesting, very unique, flavorful to the warbands that they come from. Now, the real big question, Jerod, is are you going to use the Ossiarch Bonereapers in a bigger game of AOS? Do their AOS rules hold water?
Yeah, so I think that they do. So we'll just go through their AOS stat line. So in AOS, they're actually fast. So they're all move 7, which is incredibly fast for Ossiarchs.
I don't know. How is it different? I'm confused now.
It's a different game board, Jason. They have the standard Ossiarch save of 4+, but they're 2 wounds each. So with 8 models, you've got 16 health sitting in a unit. They have a control score of 1, so you've got a control score of 8 if you're sitting on an objective, which is not terrible. Their weapon profiles are pretty standard. There's nothing crazy to write home about there. But their big thing is that because they're a scouting force for the Ossiarch Bonereapers, in the deployment phase, you can declare that they are going to use Predator's Cunning. So they get set up in reserve. And then in your movement phase, you can pick them. And the effect is that you set the unit up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units.
That's big because they don't have a ability like that in the.
Yeah, they don't have. Yeah, they don't. There's no summon, pop up, teleport ability in the Ossiarchs. So
slick.
I could easily see one of these being useful. I mean, I haven't played any full games of AOS 4, but knowing how valuable teleporting can be in Spearhead for the Sylvaneth, as they're an elite battle force, Ossiarchs are going to be elite as well. Having maybe 2 of these that you could use to pop up wherever you need them to could be really big.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yes, Jason, I will probably end up using them in the large game.
Awesome. What about the Sylvaneth? Do they also add something to their larger counterpart?
So the unit itself is not as impressive for the Sylvaneth, for the Twistweald. They do have some decent shooting, albeit it's pretty short range. They all have 2 health and they're 5 up armor save and they move 5 and they're 1 control for objective control. The Swarm Sage in the unit actually has a pretty decent little shooting attack that they can shoot in combat. It's called the Voracious Swarm. It's a 10-inch range, 6 attacks, 3 to hit, 4 to wound, 1 rend, and 1 damage. It has shoot in combat, so it's a nice little boost of damage in the shooting phase, even if they're caught. And then the single model that has the bow gets 2 shots as well as 18 inches for 2 shots, 3s, 4s, and rend 1, damage 1, but he cannot shoot in combat. It's a pretty middling damage profile for the melee weapons. All the rest of the guys have either Twist Root Talons, which are 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, no rend, and 1 damage, or a Warden's Blade, which is 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, rend 1, 2 damage. The big thing I think that these guys are going to be used for is kind of some charge disruption tech, because they have a ability that can be used in any charge phase called Eruption of Thorned Vines. And the flavor text here is pretty cool. It says barbed vines burst from the ground and infected Sylvaneth flesh to ensnare foes, allowing their movement and forcing them to confront the Twistweald head on, slowing their movement and forcing them to face the Twistweald head on. And it says, declare, if this unit is more than 6 inches from all other friendly Sylvaneth units, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Subtract D3 from charge rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. So you pick a unit, and you basically reduce their charge range by D3. So that's pretty big, because that's
pretty cool.
That can change a charge phase pretty drastically, especially if it's a longer charge.
Yeah, it definitely could keep somebody away for a turn.
Yeah.
Well, awesome.
Cool models too. So
yeah, it's a quick look at what makes each of these warbands unique and awesome on the tabletop. I'm excited to see them played. I am really excited to see them in line with their bigger counterparts, just to see how the models fit into the range. I always love to see Warcry warbands on the large table. So with that, we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
And we're back, and that wraps up the 68th episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. Again, we just want to say thank you to Games Workshop for sending us an advanced copy of Briar and Bone to review and get painted up and play with. So again, just thank you for that. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode. If you have any feedback, you can find us on the socials. We are BattleMallet1 on Twitter /X, BattleMalletPcast on Instagram, Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook. We have a Discord. You can find the link to the Discord server in the show notes. We would love for you to join us. Share what you've been up to in the hobby. Give us feedback. Just interact with us in general. If you're headed to Nova, let us know. We'd love to meet you there in, almost a month.
A month.
Yeah. Gosh, it's coming up fast. Yeah. So, any other shout-outs? No. Cool. Sweet. So, for the Battle Mallet podcast, I'm a Teratic Prowler.
I'm a Woody.
And I'm a Bone Thug in Harmony.
This is Jerod signing out.
Straight signing out.
Now I'm Jason Table New Murray. Get the hell out of here.
Peace.
Go Bells.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
The Crossroads.
Tell me what you gonna do.
When ain't nowhere to hide.
When
judgment comes for you. When judgment comes for you.
And I'm gonna miss everybody. And I'm gonna miss everybody.
I'm gonna miss everybody.
I'm gonna miss everybody. And I'm gonna miss everybody.
Meet you at the crossroads.
And we pray, we pray, we pray, we pray. Every day, every day, every day, every day.